Hello, Frank DeFreitas.
How are you doing?
Hello, Alec.
Yes, am I calling it a good time?
It's the prearranged time, and you're right on the money.
Oh, okay.
You're a minute early.
Oh. Are things going well for you?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first show that I've ever done where someone has called me.
Oh, really?
So I was actually a little confused as to what I needed to do here. You know, should I have headphones on when the phone rings? I didn't even know if the phone would ring. Because it all goes into a mixer board, you know?
That's pretty funny.
So it seems like it turned out okay.
Okay. That's great.
Well, we have a lot of things to talk about. I thought we would talk a little bit about the history of Integraf, cover a little bit about the company, and also your announcement of your new laser diode systems that you're going to be bringing on the market soon. Mm-hmm. But first, since you have the pulse of holography through your business, obviously, let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Okay? We'll make the answer simple. The answer would either be up or the answer would be down. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. Holography and education.
Up.
Up? That's good. Professional use of holography.
If you define broadly holography, well, I'm only up or down, right? So that would be, I guess, overall up.
Up. That's good,
yes,
too.
If you consider holographic label security as professional, but if you're talking about holographic art, I think there's some potential there. As we've seen at the conference at Wales. That was very encouraging.
Yeah. Amateur holography.
Up.
Definitely up on that, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we've got 3 ups there. That's good.
That's right.
Always want to try and get a finger on the pulse of holography and where it's at. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a hologram anywhere in ages outside of my own studio.
Yeah, you know, when you say it's up, but it's still probably a slope on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think education is growing, particularly in the junior highs and high schools as they're beginning to do that. And we're finding a lot of summer camps beginning to do it. In fact, this past summer we helped a camp set up a lab, and they taught over 1,000 students making holograms.
1,000? Wow.
Yeah.
What camp was this?
Let's see. There's several. Actually, there's 3 of them. There's 3 summer science camps for kids, and each one of them had about 300, 400 students making holograms.
Are they through museums?
No, they're actually through universities that are beginning to get some foundation money to help set up camps on optics and things like that, and holography is becoming a part of that, and we're helping them set up curricula, and we give them pretty steep discounts, too, so that they can really make it affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as far as careers go, it's holography is, in and of itself, not too many people would probably suggest to someone to become a professional holographer when there are so many other choices in physics and optics and photonics. But holography is a wonderful segue to physics, optics, and those types of careers.
That's correct. That's correct. In fact, I think my father, Dr. Jeong, aptly puts it, if the past century was the century of electronics, and you've seen how that's completely changed the world, the next century is really going to be the century of optics.
Yeah.
And where else can you learn 5 Nobel, prize-winning ideas than in holography?
Mm-hmm. And it's fun for kids. Bottom line, that's very important to keep kids' interest.
That's right.
Because you're competing against MTV, you're competing against iPods. Anytime you're in a classroom, you know, you may be talking about George Washington for a week, but it's just not going to cut it with some kids, you know. But holography, it's something that they can bring one of their favorite objects into class and the workshop and do a hologram of it and put it under the light and see it, and everyone's very excited about it.
Right, and I think another thing that we oftentimes bring up, particularly is some teachers will ask, you know, how can I set up my curricula? What else should I teach besides how to make the hologram? We have to bring it into the context of today, in which you're looking at some of this new holographic innovations, particularly in holographic storage.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at holographic disk storage, they're looking at making 300 gigabyte disks to even terabyte gigabyte disk within the next couple of years. And what is that based on? It's based on holographic, basically multi-channel holograms. And so there's a lot of application there. And then you also look, of course, at smart holograms and what they're doing with diabetes, treating diabetes or monitoring diabetes and other diseases. There's actually a lot of applications of holograms that a lot of people actually are not as aware of. Mm-hmm. And it's actually an important field, and you'll see that I think holography will start, not only becoming more used, but I think it'll become more known as well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Not too many people know anything about the magnetic hard drives within their PCs. And not many people know about the laser systems that are in the CD players and DVD players. So it'll probably be behind the scene, but at least people know that it's there. People know that they do have a hard drive in the computer, and they do have laser systems in their DVD players and CD players. So I can see that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I placed my first order with Integraf, I believe, in 1982 or 1983. How old were you?
Let's see. That I would have been about 15 then.
15. Did you help your dad out back then?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think you asked about a little history of Integraf, but I can also start about my own little history.
Sure.
Very interesting that I think I've been living around holography all my life, probably because my father started in the 1960s. Initially, I was probably just the object of his hologram, as with the Lloyd Cross, the cylindrical hologram. My brother, my sister, and I were in that. That was my first exposure, true exposure to holograms, literally and figuratively. But thereafter was helping my father on some of the workshops during the summers, and then later on actually have participated, I believe, in 5 out of the 7 symposia on international holography, ranging from, as a young kid, just being the busboy to more recently, attending it at a higher level. And so Integraf has been around for about, actually, almost 30 years. And
73, right?
What's that?
73, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, and you asked about how it started. Well, basically, my father was, really trying to help education and help promote holography. And it turns out that as he was making holograms, many of his colleagues would ask him, well, where did you get the film? And my father would give him a little piece here, a little piece there, and say, okay, now here's some. Well, it ends up that more and more people kept asking, well, where did you get the film? That ends up, in order to keep purchasing and spending time on it, we need to go on a kind of cost-plus basis because just too many inquiries started coming in.
Where did he get the film?
At that time, he was getting some, I believe, from AGFA.
Directly from AGFA.
That's right.
Yeah.
Directly from AGFA, and I believe there was another supplier. I believe it was Ilford, actually. Ilford and Kodak. Because we had, in the past, been distributors for Kodak, Ilford, and actually the DuPont polymer.
Yeah, his early work probably was on Kodak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there were several distributors back in the early days. One not too far from me here, which was Keystone Scientific. Oh, geez, and what were some of the other names? The names just, slipped by me now.
Yeah, it's still somewhat of a niche industry, you probably noticed. It hasn't gotten its full bloom, and so players that come in and out, and somehow Integraf has, has survived, and today it's, I think we're probably one of the few distributors around that kind of do it on a full-time basis, so we're able to basically ship the same day. So someone calls that morning, we can ship it out that next day. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten to a scale that's large enough to be able to support that, but still, I would say it's definitely a niche market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still have to keep the prices at a certain level just to be able to stay in.
It's unfortunate that the recording materials still, are so expensive. When you take into consideration what the cost of, all the other equipment needed to make a hologram, someone can easily put a fairly decent experimental holography system together, like a little studio, for $100, and then they're going to spend, $220 for a couple plates.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the plate, of course, but for the prices, we pretty much try to maintain it. I don't think we've actually had a price increase for something like 5 years.
Oh, it's not anything that you can do. It's not your fault.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough cookie to crack because we're trying to make it more affordable. In fact, so what we're doing is some of the new products that we have coming down the road, we're actually working with a manufacturer to produce some film. Actually, we're being very happy with the results. We're finding it as comparable to AGFA. And actually, the Fuji, except that it won't be, it's not
panchromatic.
Polychromatic. It's just red sensitive now. But the idea is to have a high quality film come in at a price that's significantly lower than what customers were used to, at least with the AGFA film.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
Unfortunately, be somewhere near the Slavish pricing.
Yeah.
But still, a higher quality for the same price is not a bad. It's always not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of interesting new things coming up. I was on your website. I actually want to get a box of plates from you, but I'm leaving next week, and I didn't want to order them when I was on the website because I didn't want them arriving, while I was gone. That's when I noticed your lasers, your new lasers. So why don't you tell the folks that are listening? This is big news. I mean, that's a wonderful price. It's almost science fiction when you think back 10, 20 years. 50 milliwatt, 100 milliwatt diode laser that you can probably put into your pocket. And why don't you tell the folks what your plans are? And keep in mind that this will be up. Once this show goes up, it stays up. So 10 years from now, people will be listening to this show as well.
And then, 10 years from now, they'll say, 100 milliwatt for $250. I can get it for $1 now.
Yes.
Right? But, we're pretty excited. We've got a few new products coming out. One is the lasers. We also have a new film I mentioned about. It's called the Integraf XP 633 film. A new developer coming out called the JDX, which is pretty much a D19 mix type of thing, except that it's really to be used with a new film. And then the lasers. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. With the lasers, we also have the lazy safety goggles, because when you start working with lasers that high, we really recommend safety goggles, and we put a automatic list price 20% lower than pretty much any manufacturer. We buy the best laser goggles from Trinity Technologies and put it down at 20% less, just to really encourage the use of them. But the lasers, we were coming out with, one is a 50 milliwatt. Let's just put it this way. Manufacturer listed as, or specified as 50, but as you know, it usually doesn't come out 50. It comes out near about 30, 40.
Yeah.
But depending on how you power it up. And then they've got a 100 milliwatt, which comes out really around 80 when you power it up. But basically, these are two down lasers, very similar to the laser that we have now for $35, which is a 4 milliwatt. In terms of having a couple of things, it's got a coherence length about 1 meter. It's got frequency stability, and so that makes it possible to make holograms in the first place.
Yes.
And then third, you also have the removable and adjustable collimating lens, which is really a sweet feature because you can simply unscrew the lens and have the light shine straight out. Therefore, you do not need the laser beam to go through any specific other lenses to spread the beam. What you end up with is a beam that's extremely clear because it doesn't have to pass through 4 different surfaces, the laser lens nor the exterior lens. And so if you're doing a Denny Sue hologram, you can pretty much shine it like a flashlight, make a hologram. Of course, you could put the lens back on and then do split beam as well. In fact, our technical director, my father, Dr. Jeong, actually replaced his Heaney laser with this one. And so we got 2 of them. One is a 50, the other 100, and the 100 is going to be probably going to list it around $245, $200.45, which is, like 10 times or more than 10 times cheaper than a comparable laser you could buy if it were not a diode.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And, thousands of dollars versus $245. And then the 50 milliwatt, we're going to list it about $175. We expect to have the 100 milliwatts within actually a few days to within a week.
Okay.
The 50 milliwatt, we've kind of run into a little delay on some of the specs. We found a little fault on it, and we had to have it changed. And
the delay on the 50 or the 100?
On the 50.
Okay.
And so We're trying to see when we can get that, but hopefully, we were originally expecting it like a couple of weeks ago, but I think we're getting a little more delays. We're going to push that out a little bit. But 100 milliwatts should be ready soon, within a week, actually.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do just some final testing just to make sure that batch is the same. We've tested several batches now just to make sure that, it's the same and it's working well. But so far, really great results. The one caveat I would say about the laser is that we've only tested up to exposures about 30 seconds.
Okay.
But remember, we're talking about 100 milliwatts, so it's not that often you're going to do exposures longer than that.
Yeah.
But, we do find that with diode lasers, with any diode laser, there's always that temperature issue where you might get a little shift. And so we've seen some fringes, unusual fringes, or actually things not happen when you go to exposure longer than that. But for short exposures or contact copy, this laser does really, really well.
Yeah, and I imagine it's just in the single brass housing, similar to your other kit laser, right?
That's right. Single brass housing, and this time we actually have the entire, even the circuit housed. I think on our smaller one, it's still not housed.
Okay.
Not ideal, but this one we got housed so that you get a little more robustness in terms of, and longevity on it.
Mm-hmm.
And simply, the power source is, again, the same as before, 2D battery and a battery holder. And so it's really simple.
Is it possible to run it off of a DC power source, like one of the wall warts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure, you can certainly do that. You can still run it off that. Some professors, teachers, or those who have access to the electronics can certainly do that. And it's also possible to run it through a TEC controller, so you do have temperature, stability.
Yeah.
And that should also fix the problem as well.
Great. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah, really, we're pretty excited about that. And then we're also looking at some. Our current holo kit, as you know, I think as low as $99 to make holograms. It's pretty, probably one of the most affordable out there today. And then we've got, of course, the other two holo kits, using plates. But now we're looking at some what we call middle and higher end equipment as well.
Oh.
And looking at for the next half year or so. Middle end meaning there's a lot of people that are graduating from the holo kit. The holo kit, you can make 6 different kinds of holograms, but usually at a more basic level. You can do interferometry, transmission, reflection, even multi-channel with it. But we're finding there's a lot of people that are graduating from that, want to move to the next level, but can't afford thousands of dollars of equipment. And so we're looking at something that's in between, probably near the $400 or $500, where you can get all the equipment all together to set up your lab. And then finally, we're looking at some really high-end, because we've got some schools and professors that have, foundation funds and really want the whole optical table as well. So we're trying to put together some packages there as well. The idea is really to make holograms and holography a little more accessible to people at all levels, depending if you're a beginner or if you're an expert.
Yeah. I don't know if this would be population density dependent or not, but do you find specific areas of the country that are more likely to be working with holography than others?
That's a good question. We see a pretty good spread. I think in the past it was probably very Chicago-based, New York-based, and West Coast, right? But now what we're finding is actually Florida is beginning to do a lot of holography.
Well, it's a requirement in Florida now, beginning this year.
Right. I don't know if you've spoken to Bill Pugh, but
he's
doing a fantastic job on there, really trying to push the importance of optics and holography down there. And so we certainly speak to him on a frequent basis. And then we also find that kind of the South is beginning to pick up, particularly Texas, New Mexico, and things like that. But generally speaking, I think it's now fairly even, although there's concentrations, of course, in New York and the West Coast and Chicago.
Did you know there were 4 states where you have to register lasers if they're 3B and above?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if folks actually go through the trouble of doing that, but I was on the web the other night looking different things up, and I believe it's New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Massachusetts.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't even give a laser to someone else in New York if it's 3B or above. If you give a laser that's 3B or above to another person in New York, that's an offense.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things actually I forgot to mention about the lasers we're having is we have a clause there that we on occasion will need to deny a sale to certain individuals. Right now, the purpose of having these lasers out is really for the experienced holographer who knows what they're doing, has these lasers, and we're not really going to be readily providing them for, I guess, youngsters or first-timers, especially first-timers who have family and kids, because a laser at that level, yes, it will hurt your eyes if you even look at it just for a split second. So you really got to know what you're doing. And so we're trying to set up before we release it a way of really informing people. Hey, this is what it's about. Do you know what you're doing? and go from there, because we really want to take that and we're pretty serious about that.
Yeah. Well, in the old days, that would be like someone purchasing a Spectraphysics 125, which ran at 50 milliwatts. It was, the spec at 50, usually put out more if the tube was new, but and it took two people to lift it, one at each end. And now you can put it in your pocket.
That's right.
For $100 and some for the 50 milliwatt, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I'm going to get one also.
Okay.
So hold one for me. I don't know if you're back ordered or not, but hold one for me. I'll be away next week, but I'll be coming back the week after.
Yeah, we're actually right now putting together a mailing list because we've had a lot of inquiries about it, and fortunately we had a couple delays so far, but we'll definitely email everybody who has requested information on it the second they come in, so that they know about they're ready to go and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Just take a moment to explain once again your other products that you're bringing on the market that's new, especially the developer. I've seen some holograms, actually reflection holograms, that have been developed with D19 and with the potassium dichromate bleach. They're beautiful holograms. You do get a wavelength shift down to the green, but that's okay too because the eye's most sensitive to the green anyway. But does a real nice job. And you said you have a developer kit that's coming together that's similar to D19?
Well, it is actually the developer site is basically D19. It's the metal, the sodium sulfite, the sodium carbonate, and potassium bromide, and so forth.
Relatively safe too.
Yeah, that's right. And then we've got then we have the bleach, which will be the copper bromide, potassium sulfate, citric acid, and some potassium bromide. And that basically, this formula, the reason why we developed this formula is probably because we have the new film coming out, and we found that this particular formula works best for that film. We have not really tested this formula yet on others' products, but we are actually about to test it on some of the Fuji, and some of the Slavish material, just to see how it works. But basically, it's made for the new film, the XP633, which we don't even have on our website yet because we're still doing some final testing on it with some holography experts and things like that.
Yeah. And what's the bleach that'll be associated with the processing of that new film?
That is, the bleach is actually very comparable, if you've heard of a Kodak F5. It's very similar to it. And it is a copper bromide, potassium sulfate, citric acid, and potassium bromide.
I see.
And it's right now the development process is a little longer, but it's for the ideal sake. For schools and individuals, we still recommend going with a JD4 with a PFG03 or a JD2 with PFG01 because the developing is so fast.
Yeah.
Particularly the JD4, we can swing out a hologram in less than 2 minutes exposure to developing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of schools actually still prefer that.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add? I see we're coming up almost on 30 minutes, believe it or not, already.
Holy cow!
And I like, I like, I would talk to you for hours, but I like to keep the file sizes small because, believe it or not, there are still people that are on dial-up 56K modems, and you have to take file size into consideration. So a half-hour audio file, with someone downloading on a 56K dial-up modem, So anything you want to say or cover before we close out?
Well, I think the only thing I want to let people know is, of course, our mission at Integraf is really to make holograms known and, of course, accessible. And through accessible, really trying to make things simple. So we got a lot of articles on our website that people might be interested in, how to make holograms step by step. And then we try to keep prices at what we call affordable, meaning we don't try to really rob the bank. We try to keep it reasonable, and you'll see that there's a lot of discounts. We sponsor the Holography Forum for discounts as well, and so forth. And then finally, we do provide a lot of technical support. We've helped people go from basically starting with a holography kit for $99 to now making full-color holograms to even some have gone professional, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so and it's all actually free technical support leading there. And then the final word really want to say is, hey, thank you, Frank. I mean, this is an invaluable radio station, and your website obviously is just invaluable. What you've done with the diode laser holography to, the education through this, the radio show and your website is exactly the kind of things that we really believe in, which is holography's out there, and it's not that hard to do.
No.
Just a little reading, and you can actually do it within an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you, Frank.
Well,
really.
Thank you. It's nice to see another generation
That's right.
getting
and
involved.
We've got new ones coming, right?
Yeah, the little ones will be moving up into the field soon too. I'm not one of the old timers. I just have one old behind my old timer. So
right.
I see so many new faces and new names, and it really is a new era and new generation. And I appreciate what you're doing. And I probably wouldn't have been able to get involved with holography if it wasn't for your dad and his company as well. He made it easy at one point to order things and get the things that I needed to get started, because I was one of those people as well one time, a long time ago. I've never met your dad yet.
Wow.
Really?
Okay.
I have to. I would have loved to have gone over to the conference, and I don't fly, which is my problem. On airplanes, I don't fly on airplanes, and it's taken away a number of opportunities for me. But one day it'll be nice to meet everybody in holography. I hope I get the chance to do that, yourself included.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Definitely. And if we swing by, Pennsylvania one time, we'll definitely try to stop by.
Oh, absolutely. Come by, we'll go out for dinner.
That would be terrific.
Yeah. Door's always open. Same address, same phone number and everything since 1983 when I first started the studio here.
All right.
So, same thing. All right. Well, Alec, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show. And I have a link to your website and email address and just about anything else anybody would need to get in touch with you.
That sounds terrific.
All right. Good luck with the lasers. And you'll be getting an order from me as soon as I get back after my trip next week.
Will do, Frank.
All right.
All right.
I'll have this up later tonight.
Sounds terrific.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you
Good talking
so much.
with you. Bye.
Have a great day.